Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss the latest scandal involving one of their MPs, the Tory MPs, carrying out sexual assaults whilst drunk. And the way it's been handled by Boris Johnson and the wider Conservative Party speaks volumes about what they really think of standards in public life. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the Deputy Chief Whip of the Conservative Party was at a private members club where he got very drunk and he groped two men at the event. Now, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way first. He was grabbing hold of other guests at a party in an inappropriate way. And his name is Chris Pincher. Mr. Pincher was doing a bit of pinching. Another victory for nominative determinism. But there the amusement ends. Pincher resigned his position in government after apologising to the Prime Minister. He may have apologised to the victims as well, I don't know. But as far as Johnson is concerned, that's the end of it. In fact, the words have come out today. The Prime Minister considers this matter closed. How often have we heard that before? You know, they're saying that his behaviour fell below the standards of expected of a member of the government, so it's right he resigned. But I've got a couple of issues with this stance before I go into other aspects of the story. First, this was not a one-off behaviour. A journalist revealed that Mr. Pincher had engaged in behaviour of this sort before. In fact, it turns out that he might have been made Chief Whip at one point at the reshuffle earlier this year, but that several Tory MPs made complaints about his behaviour. In other words, Boris Johnson knew about this sort of behaviour and thought, oh, well, let's not make him Chief Whip. We'll make him Deputy Chief Whip, that'll be fine. So Boris Johnson knew about this behaviour when he made him what is still a senior member of the government. So if it was right for him to resign from the government due to this behaviour now, why was it right to make him a senior member of the government in the first place when this sort of behaviour was known about before? This appears to be less a case of resigning from the government because your behaviour wasn't up to standard and more resigning from the government because your behaviour is about to be splashed all over the media. And second, the Conservatives are not withdrawing the whip from Pincher, even temporarily. Nor are they going to carry out an investigation. So, that's what they're saying as I record this anyway. So what they're saying is that this behaviour is unacceptable for a member of the government, sort of, even though they knew about it when they made him a member of the government, but not an MP. Is that right? I mean, let's say an existing backbench MP were to have been found to have groped people. Would people say, well, he's not a member of the government, so there's no need to take any action? I'm not sure this is stacking up. In fact, so badly is this position from Boris Johnson going that it may even be the case that the whip has been withdrawn and an investigation launched by the time this video is published. It would not surprise me if the pressure to act is such that he has to at least carry out an investigation. Given that Pincher seems to have confirmed the reports, I don't think there's any denial about what he is supposed to have done. I really see no reason why there should not be, at the very least, a temporary suspension of the whip and an investigation. It's not even a punishment, really. As long as he's back for the next election, it's not even a punishment to lose the whip. But maybe Johnson is wary of removing the whip from MPs whom he can count on to vote in his favour, should there be another confidence vote in the not too distant future. That being said, I don't think there's that much danger for him immediately. Not until after summer anyway. The 1922 committee elections are taking place this month, and that is being seen as an effective confidence vote in Johnson. If the next committee ends up being packed with his allies, then he's safe for now because it means other Tory MPs voted them into those positions to block another confidence vote. If people, however, who have been very clear about wanting him gone are elected to those positions, then it's probably curtains. But that election is not for 3 weeks. So he could have the whip withdrawn for, say, a month or two and be fine. I think this is probably more just a case of Johnson trying to protect people he sees as friends. No bad thing to want to protect a friend in a personal capacity, but it is not a virtue in a professional or government sense. And let's be clear about what behaviour we're talking about here. This is a potential criminal offence. If the victims make complaints to the police, it could result in prosecution, conviction, possibly even imprisonment. Now, given that this is a private club full of Tories who no doubt went to posh private schools and were taught that being sexually assaulted by your superiors was just part of the culture, I won't hold my breath that any complaint will be made. But in theory, it could be. For the government to even attempt to take no action just risks yet another PR disaster for them. It makes a serious issue a bigger story because all of a sudden it's not about yet another Tory MP with their sexual deviancy. It's another story about the fitness of the government. Because let's compare a few things. We've just had 2 by-elections, both caused by Tory MPs committing 2 very different types of sexually motivated offence. Wakefield was caused due to the conviction of the Tory MP for sexually assaulting a boy. Now, Mr. Pincher's offence was clearly not as serious, but it is the same type of offence. It's lower down the scale, but it's still a sexual assault, albeit on adults. But that doesn't make it fine. Tiverton and Honiton was caused because the MP watched porn at work in full view of colleagues. Now, this wasn't a criminal offence, just unprofessional behaviour. But let's look at the behaviours in comparison, because I would put them in this order of seriousness, with the most serious first. Serious sexual assault of a child for which a police complaint was made and a conviction secured. Next, less serious but still sexual assault of 2 adults for which a complaint to the police could be made but probably won't be. Third, watching porn because you were waiting for other MPs to stop boring your bollocks off so that you could vote. Now, unless someone can explain to me how watching porn at work is more serious than sexually assaulting people against their will in private, I'm going to ask why Neil Parish had to resign for his tractor porn misadventures, but the drunken groper, Chris Pincher, does not even have a temporary suspension of the whip. But like I say, we are going to see the whip withdrawn. It's going. Even Dan Hodges of the Mail, late to every political revelation, can see it. It's all over the newspapers. If Johnson resists taking any action at all, as he is doing as I record this, it will invite questions as to why. It will remind people that these sorts of things seem to be fairly commonplace amongst Tory MPs in particular. The thing is, if Johnson just took the right action at the right time, yes, people like me would go, oh, this is another Tory MP. Oh, this is another Tory MP doing this. Oh, it's another Tory. But in the public, if he dealt with it quickly, it would soon go away because, well, it's not a reflection on Boris Johnson. As long as, like, you get poorly, unfit for office MPs in all parties, don't you? And every now and then something comes out. If the leadership deals with it, though, that's no reflection on the party. It's only a reflection on the party when the party tries to cover it up. This is precisely the sort of thing that knackered the Conservatives' final term in office in the 90s, and there John Major was trying desperately to grapple with the issue of Tory sleaze. Right now, Johnson isn't even trying to firefight. The problem is that he simply doesn't see the problem with these behaviours. I mean, there have been numerous allegations of this sort of sexual assault against Johnson from women in the past. I mean, if true, and they're certainly plausible when you consider what he's written on the subject in the past, it's little wonder he never sees the need to act until the backlash comes, because he sees nothing wrong with it. Just banter. And this is why I keep trying to say that the Tory MPs who want to keep Johnson and thinking, oh, the current scandals will die down, don't worry, we've got 2.5 years to the election, are deluded. These scandals are never going to die down. Yes, this behaviour was not Johnson's responsibility in any way, but he was responsible for making him a senior member of the government when this behaviour was known about at the time. And he's also responsible for thinking he can take no action other than accepting the resignation of one of the few members of the government that at least recognises they need to do that when they get caught. So Johnson will withdraw the whip. He could do it today and limit the damage. He could do it next week and look like a right clown. Like I said, it may already have happened by the time this video goes out, not as I recorded it, things to do, got to get it out now. His MPs will be bugging him until he does, though. I've seen no end of reports of Tory MPs aghast at what Johnson's doing, yet again. They understand how this looks to the public. He will eventually do what he should have done last night. It's just a question of when. Like with all his obvious U-turns, it's just a question of when. So then when he does, he'll invite questions about why he tried to avoid doing it, why he tried to put his foot down. He will say that he supports his MPs or something like that, which then invites the question why he's not instead supporting standards in public life. Yes, a leader should support their team, but they also have to enforce discipline. The Prime Minister's first duty is to the country and its people, not drunken sexual predators who happen to be mates with him. He will yet again look like someone with no judgment and no backbone. No judgment because he will have made the wrong call yet again and will have to correct it. No backbone because he's made his statement, he's made his position clear and he's going to U-turn on it yet again. And two final points. One Tory MP pointed out that this man is supposed to handle MPs' welfare. As Deputy Chief Whip, he was in charge of any complaints. If an MP had a complaint of, say, bullying or sexual harassment, they'd go to this man. And yet here's someone who was known by the Prime Minister to be abusing people. It's neglect, said this MP. And finally, today, the pound is falling alarmingly. It's been falling over the last few weeks. Today, a big old drop against various currencies, including the euro and the dollar. This means that the cost of anything we import is going up. That means directly or indirectly, food, medicines, fuel, energy. The government should be working to deal with this crisis. They should treat it as a crisis and be working flat out to see what they can do about it. Instead, it's going to be working out how to do the bare minimum of its duty without losing too much public support. Yet again, the government are going to be talking politics instead of government. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.